Yo, hey everybody. So, I wanted to do a video today on a couple of the things, that are the most common issues I see as a bike mechanic on a day-to-day basis. Of what the most common issues of poor shifting can be, and these are just some super common things you can kind of check on your own. But anyway, the probably the number one thing I see is just poor cable condition. So I've got these are just kind of a couple dummy pieces that I've put together. I used to show these to people at the shop. That this is an actual used piece of rear. This was in a rear derailleur setup. This is just a brand new piece with brand new inner wire. So anyway, what happens a lot of times, it's kind of hard to see this, but you look closely, you can see this is kinked a little bit. I shot another little video clip at work a couple days ago that this piece is really bad, and it's just super common for this piece to get bent. If it's sitting, normally it'll be hooked up into the back of the derailleur, and it's just a common area for that to get smacked up against something, or it's just susceptible to damage from just normal day-to-day riding or whatever. But anyway, what you can do is if you have so many bikes now are all internal cable routing, but if that's the case, there's really no way to unhook like the cable. Normally, if you shift it all the way, like say to the big cog, and then without pedaling, shift it all the way down, that'll create some slack where you can pull this out of if you've got a split cable guide, and then from there, you want to just like see how much friction it takes to pull that, just the inner wire through the housing. I mean, this one, it's if I just hold onto the house, loosely, it's like I got to really kind of pull on it. There's a lot of friction in there. Where this one, it's like, I can just pull this up and down, and it just easily floats through there. It's not even, I can just hit it, at the end there. Where this one, I can get close to the end, and it's like, it's pretty sticky. So just that friction through here, if it's an older cable, there's other sections, or if it's a long internally routed cable, it's gonna do the same thing. What you can do though is, if you have a long internal routed cable, you can just unhook it from your, unhook your pinch bolt there, and just maybe hold that end and work it through, shift shift your shifter, and see how much friction it feels like it has. So just derailleurs in general, there's basically, you've got this spring in there, and so as you shift, you're overcoming that spring tension. But when you let the slack out of your cable, that spring has to do all the work of pulling that cable back in place. I'd say historically SRAM, they've got a pretty stiff spring in there, so it's maybe a little more effort to shift it, but that spring will pull these pulleys back into place under the correct gear. So if there's too much friction in those cables, what happens is this spring in here can't overcome that resistance. So that's where you get into those things. It's more of an issue with Shimano as far as, you say you shift up to the bigger cogs and it shifts fine, but then when you start shifting down, sometimes you have to shift twice and then back up to get into the original gear you wanted. If you're running into that kind of situation, it's a pretty good chance cables are cheap to replace, and I don't know. So that's just my quick tip. Check the cables first. The second thing is maybe check the cable routing. On this particular one, it's going to vary with the manufacturer, but it's, your housing butts and stops there. It comes around this little pulley, goes up and around here, and then it goes up and over. And there's kind of a specific way. There's the way this little key washer is, and on Shimano derailleurs, some of the older ones especially, they'll have like a tab where the cable cinches down, and there's like a little key that keeps that from turning. I see those all the time that are routed incorrectly. And so what that does is, not only will it throws off the geometry of the shifting, It also makes it harder to shift, but there's so many different variations of that. I can't even like really get into it, but I would say if you're putting new cables on a older system, or you bought a bike secondhand and you're not 100% confident that it's set up right, just always, there's generally going to be somewhere, Shimano or whatever, there's going to be a model number or something like that listed on it where you can just Google it, look on the SRAM, Shimano, Campanolo, whoever, Microship, they're all going to have some decent manuals and things that shows how you route that stuff correctly on your given model. So that's definitely something to look into. Again, I can do how to route it on this model, that model, whatever, but there's literally so many out there. It would take forever to do that, a ton of videos. But anyway, yeah, that's just my quick video rant. Check the cables. That one's hard to push. Nice and free. Whoosh. See that? It's like whoosh. So this particular example, the rear section of cable housing is way too short. So that hoop needs to be longer. It's going to work better long term, especially. Anyway, there's I'll put a link to, I did another video of just some of the basics on how to set up a rear derailleur as far as setting the limit screws, the B-knuckle, all that stuff. Anyway, yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Please consider subscribing. If you watched the video and this solved your problem, hey, consider hitting that applause button. It's like $2 or less or something. And, I'm a struggling man trying to support 2 kids. So, yeah, anyway, thanks for watching. Consider subscribing as well. Hey, anyway, we'll see you guys next time, and thanks for watching.